You spent the past 2 days writing a paper and you are so proud of it. You think it's the best work you've ever done. You've spent days, if not weeks, thinking about this paper. You are so excited you think it's the best thing you've ever did, and you are so ready to get it back. And you get it back. And it is riddled with red ink. And it is all because you did not properly embed a quote. So what do? Embedding a quote is the center of your paper. It is where you express and provide evidence to support your answers and your conclusions. It helps you support your claim. It is the heart of your paper. If you can properly embed a quote, then the paper will have a great flow to it. If it has a great flow to it, then the teacher will know you understand how to use your grammar and use your words of persuasion to influence a claim. In classes or in future reference as being a teacher, you may need to use this or even teach this to your students. Even if you aren't an English teacher, you may have a really great paper that you want the students to write, but they don't exactly know how to embed a quote. So it's really important for you yourself to know how to embed a quote properly. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to properly embed a quote in an essay in future classes with your future students. I will cover 3 ways to properly embed a quote: set-off quotes, built-in quotes, and quotes with a colon. One of the proper ways to embed a quote is a set-off quote. This is when the quote is introduced followed by a colon. Usually in the introduction, you will use a signal phrase, and this means that it is certain words that will signal that you are about to start talking about a quote. So this can include according to, states that, and notes. There are many more than just those. That's the 3 that I will use in the examples that I provided to you on a piece of paper that you should be following along with. And also, the first word in the quote is capitalized. That's how you know that it's a set-off quote. It'll be capitalized, it will have a colon, and it will use a signal phrase. So here are some examples. Let me just get them up. So the example includes, according to Gavin, social media, the S is capitalized, note that, social media is the root of all evil, end quote. The next one is, Keeley states that, that's the signal phrase, and this is going to start the quote, drama is the key to everyone's problems, end quote. The next one is, Ethan notes, school is for chumps, end quote. And you will notice that each part of the quote is capitalized, and it has a signal phrase and a colon. Another way to properly embed a quote is to build in a quote. A built-in quote is exactly as it sounds. This includes the introduction, which flows perfectly into the quote. And this is usually used when you're speaking to an audience, so for example using this class, or you're speaking to your students. So I'll get the examples up again. Then examples include, in regards to animal behavior, Emma states that it will also use a signal phrase, but you will not be capitalizing your quotes. So let me restart that. In regards to animal behavior, Emma states that horses pin their ears when they are agitated, end quote. Another example, Haley notes in her article about beverages that Coca-Cola is the preferred soda of consumers in fast food chains. And what you need to note about that one in particular is that you can split up a signal phrase as long as it has notes that. You can include something in the middle just to give a little bit of an introduction, which is why it's called the introduction, and explain what the quote is about to be about. When using a colon to embed a quote, the introduction uses a signal phrase that creates a whole sentence. I'm sorry, let me back up. What I'm talking about is quotes using a colon. So that's the final way to properly embed a quote. When using a colon to embed a quote, the introduction uses a signal phrase, like I said before, that creates a whole sentence. After the colon, the first word of the quote is capitalized. And I'll get up the examples again. And you should be following along in your examples that I provided to you on a separate piece of paper. Julia states that Hannah Montana is the best TV show of her childhood. It taught me how to embrace myself and hide from my true nature. What you need to know is it has a signal phrase, the quotes are capitalized, the first word is capitalized, and it has a period inside the quote. Usually, if you have a quote, you would not include a period in the quote, you would include it after the citation. But in this one in particular, you will include the period inside the quote. The next one is, Doc found that cold starting your engine can sound louder. Just wait until winter and your engine will sound louder than usual. Another thing I didn't mention is that the colon comes before the quote, before you introduce the quote. So you introduce the quote, and then it's a colon, and then it's your quote, and then the period before the end of the quote. Okay. All in all, embedding a quote can become second nature once you focus on them. Set-off quotes are the most common and include a signal phrase and a colon. Built-in quotes are harder. They're harder to create because you have to be able to flow the sentence completely and make it seamless so it sounds like you're talking to the audience instead of introducing a quote. And quotes with a colon are full sentences using a signal phrase and a colon and a period inside the quote. By taking into consideration the importance of quotes and how to properly embed them in a paper, you will not have to worry about your paper being filled up with red ink. You will not have to worry about your quotes not making sense, they're not flowing properly, and your teacher is unimpressed with how you present yourself in a paper. This may not be in person, this may just be how they're reading it, and they're like, okay, this person may not know how to properly embed a quote. And it's really important to be able to do that. So, I'm going to have you do the quiz that I provided in the below here, and you will take that, and I believe, let me look at it. It is a few questions, and I can go over it actually. The first part, you will circle the correct type of embedding quotes, and it will give you the options. It'll say whether it's a set-up quote, a built-in quote, or it's using a colon. And I used the examples from before, so if you were paying attention, this part will be really easy. The next part might be a little bit more difficult, but it includes writing a set-off quote using the following, and it will give you examples, and you have to be able to make your own set-off quote. And then it's the same thing using a built-in quote as well as a quote with a colon. So go ahead and take that quote, wow, okay. Go ahead and take that quiz and then come back and I'll give you my closing sentence. Hopefully you have taken the time to fully grasp this topic as I provided the quiz and you are hopefully able to do well. I will provide the cheat sheet, kind of, not really, the cheat sheet, and you'll be able to test yourself and see how you did. Thank you.